And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. And as always, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, we're highlighting the Valley Shore Community Television Station, which is based in Westbrook, Connecticut, and where I tape this program. And I have the pleasure of having Annemarie LePard, who is the studio assistant and field producer, as my guest today. And Annemarie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Deborah.
You're usually back there.
I'm behind scenes, normally not in front of the camera.
How is it?
Well, I'm kind of used to it a little bit. I did our pickleball segment, which I did stand-ups for, but I don't normally get a lot of camera time. So different, but still comfortable.
Are you okay right now?
I think so.
Well, you're a young woman who is in the industry and people are probably saying, how exciting, I want to hear more about her. So take us into your background.
So I went to Haddam Killingworth High School. I graduated in 2018, and one of the most significant parts of high school, that's how I got involved in the TV studio. Actually, Chuck Lewis, our executive director, was my high school broadcast teacher. So I had been familiar with this before, but never really came down, never really considered it as anything but one of the significant turning moments in my career when I decided I wanted to pursue journalism. Was I produced, alongside my friend Jess Santoro, we produced a documentary on the railroad ties, how they're revitalizing them in Higganum. And my grandfather is actually a big part in that. It's all volunteer work. So we did a documentary on that, and we ended up going to the Student Television Network convention, and we won the award for the 2017-2018 Best Film Documentary. So that was like the #1 documentary in the country for student television. Thank you. So it was a very significant award, and I just remember the exact moment when we were filming that the exact moment was I was interviewing Rob Bradway, and they had just brought the train up for us to film it. And I'm talking to him, and he's just so excited talking about trains, just so over the moon. And I was like, I want to feel this for the rest of my life. And so I said, okay, this is what I'm going to go to school for. So I have a little clip of the video that I can show, just like one of my favorite parts.
There was talk about the start up of a Saturday volunteer track gang. People were going to go out and work on restoring these tracks and extend them from Chester up to Haddam.
No, write it down. What it is, you're pinching.
I'll my hand, shovel stuff in it.
And I said, that sounds interesting. Maybe I can spend a Saturday going out and see what track work is all about.
Basically, you look at a bad tie. Here's a bad one. It's all rotted. We take every third, about 2/3 of them out.
Not much.
And we put new ones in, which is this black one you see right here. And when we get the new one in there, we call packing.
And then we want to pack that down with, in lieu of anything better, the bunny hop method.
Then you come back with another piece of the heavy equipment and you lift the track, stick a piece of metal under here called a plate.
They distribute the load of the train through the rail onto a larger footprint of the tie so they don't wear.
And we nail it.
And they keep it all put together.
That used to be done by the Chinese. Now they can't get Chinese to do this, so they have us do it.
And welcome back to the show. Annemarie, that's so interesting. What did we just see?
So that's the track gang, and that's the project that I won the Student Television Network Award for down in Nashville. And Mr. Lewis oversaw the entire project. I have pictures of us with him and the award from high school. And so that was it was actually our third idea. So the project was to do a documentary as part of this digital media class that we had at HK. And this was our third idea. Mr. Lewis was like, you got to do it. It's your grandfather, you have a connection. I was like, I don't want to work with my grandfather. I want to come up with something on my own. But we ended up, everything else fell through, so we ended up doing it. And so here we are in Nashville. That's with Mr. Lewis, that's Jess, and this is the award all the way.
Oh my God,
on
look
the
at
right.
that. That's great.
So, and then that's me just like graduating high school. So it was, here we are in college now. But to wrap up on the documentary, that was the turning point in my career. And I had my grandfather be a part of it, so it was a really cool bonding moment for us. And we just, I don't know, it just was something awesome. And it became, the crazy part about it is that I went to Hofstra University and people knew that video from Hofstra that weren't from Connecticut, weren't from the area, and they go, you did the track gang, right? Because they had seen it at like the network convention at other times. And one kid was like, yeah, I was showing it to other students. And so this video has gone all around. I don't even know who's seen it. So it's really cool that it's gone above and beyond than just Higginham in the Shoreline area, and Essex Steam Train was playing it on loop at the railroad there. So it's just really cool. But
HK has a wonderful reputation as a good program. Tell us what that's all about.
That's all thanks to Mr. Lewis. He was there for several years. He retired the year after I was there. So I was one of the last few years that had him, but he just instilled so much confidence in me, and I got exposed to so much. I was using Adobe Premiere Pro. I was using cameras. I was going out into the field. I was directing. I was creating packages, all of this stuff that when I went to college, I was so far advanced than anyone else. So
here's college.
Yeah, so in college I did a few different clubs. So this is radio, which was something that was completely new to me. I'd never done radio before, so I was actually the director of News Technical. So I did a lot of operating behind the board, teaching people how to be the engineer, which was really cool. So I did that for 4 years. And that was just a really unique experience. And then I was the president of Hofstra's Society of Professional Journalists chapter my senior year. And I really wanted to expand it as much as I could. It had kind of gone under the rug after a while, and it was super important to me to it's amazing for networking. So I wanted to grow it. I wanted people to know we're here, and I tried to host as many events as I can, and I'm proud of myself for what I did with it, even if it wasn't as reciprocated, but I think I crushed it.
Hofstra, was it a good school for you to go to for what you wanted?
Yes. Hofstra has a very amazing program. I was involved in the Hofstra Chronicle, which is here. And so I would stay up late working on the paper. I was the news editor, and it opened my eyes to a lot of just different avenues. I was able to intern in different areas. Hofstra has a really good network system. We're about 30 minutes by train to New York City. That was a big point for me.
Right.
Because I was able to have the separation from the city, but be able to go to the city. Wasn't sure I wanted to live in a city. So that gave me the separation. And the thing is, coming from HK with this extremely developed program, I didn't want to go to a school where I would go down. I wanted something better. And Hofstra has 3 TV studios. They've got film, TV, journalism. And I also didn't want to go, a lot of schools had journalism incorporated with an English major. And I didn't like that. I was like, no, journalism deserves its own school, its own, just like it deserves to be on its own or with other media majors. So that was super important to me. I was kind of a picky. But I fell in love with Hofstra my freshman year of high school, actually. We did a college fair, and I was just talking to the lady, and I was like, wow, I love these trees that they had in the brochure. It was the trees that got me. And I didn't even know I wanted to go into journalism at that point. And I go home and I go, Mom, I found this school. It's in New York. It's so cool. And she's like, your family lives like 10 minutes down the road. So that was super cool. And Hofstra just always stuck with me. And the first time I went on that campus, it just felt like home. And everyone accepted me, took me in, part of those organizations. And, you know, I was able to do 4 internships when I was there.
Oh, wow.
So I did Fox in 2020, which I did a digital, it was more of like a digital platform, not exactly what I wanted to do, but it was a start. And this was during COVID. So about 2.5 years of my college career were COVID, which was really difficult. And everything had to adjust because I'm right by New York City. I was like, oh, I'm going to intern in the city. Wanted to ride the train in, wanted to go to the internship, but I ended up having to do most of them virtually. So then Fox asked me to stay on in the same department for the next semester, and I said, listen, I really love Fox, and I love how you guys treat your interns. I love that you want us to have these opportunities, but I'd really like to experience a different department because this isn't exactly what I want to do. I like longer form content like what I do here. So then I went over to Fox Nation, and that was their version of like a Netflix or a Hulu where they do longer form projects. And I remember one of the projects I worked on was the history of tattoos in America, which I thought was just so cool. And I was looking up pictures, different things, sitting out on meetings. And while I was doing that internship, I decided to be super eager, and I interned at Nassau County Government as one of their like video production interns. And because one wasn't enough at a time, I had to do 2. And then my very first internship ever, which I don't want to ignore, was the Connecticut Examiner. And a big thank you to Greg Stroud for giving me that opportunity. That was also during COVID. That was the summer before I went into my junior year. And super thankful for him for giving me the chance. And that was all written and just allowing me to develop and grow my writing skills. And I was able to take that with me back to school and teach everybody else how to do it.
Okay, let's take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
VSCTV for the Valley Shore community. VSCTV for the Valley Shore community.
Come on in, come on in.
Welcome to Sure Things.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mazzetti Show.
Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and my conversation continues on with Annemarie LePard. And Annemarie, we want to talk about the Valley Shore Community Television Station, which is one of the main reasons why you're being focused here.
Yeah.
But you had other things you wanted to say.
So we'll go quickly so we
Okay.
can get there. So I want to show this. So when I went to Hofstra, when I got there, one of the big things that I wanted was to recreate a video like the Track Gang. And so I had this professor, Mario Gonzalez, my senior year, and we did an independent study. And I created this video called, actually it was a multimedia project called Squat, Sleep, Repeat. It had a documentary element that's about 10 minutes long, a podcast, and an article where I talked about different aspects of weightlifting, why it matters, how it impacts people, how, the podcast talked about was called Fit is Feminine. So all females were talking on it about what it means to be a female in the gym, what it means to be a female weightlifter. And then I had an article that talked about body dysmorphia and how that impacts people. So I got to meet a lot of different people, and I have a little introduction of it because I thought that was just really cool. So I'd love to show that little video. It's about like 30 seconds.
Sure.
That.
Yeah, let's show that video that she's speaking of. And what did we just see?
So that's my Squat, Sleep, Repeat documentary video. So I had different voices in it. I had a girl who got into weightlifting because she was struggling with an eating disorder. I interviewed a trans male who wants to be the first trans person to make it to Mr. Olympia. I got to meet all these different people, and it was just really cool. And it's really special to me because I love weightlifting. So that went on to win a couple of awards. I placed 4th in the Hearst Multimedia Awards, which was the highest any Lawrence Herbert School of Communication student has placed in the Hearst Awards in several years. So that was super cool. And I also placed 1st in a New York Broadcasters Media Award, and something I'm just proud of. And you know, just to say, I submitted it for an Emmy because my professor he believed in me so much that it was worthy of an Emmy, and so he really encouraged me to apply. So just having that means a lot.
You have an amazing background.
Yeah.
How did you find this station?
So, crazy story. So I, after graduation, did not know what I wanted to do. Like I said, I was in school during COVID. And so this is graduation. I graduated. This is my mentor who actually got me into Hofstra, Cliff Jernigan. He's an amazing human. But after I graduated, I was super scared. I was running ideas through my head. Peace Corps, travel, get a job. What do I want to do? And I ended up going to Hawaii during my spring break, and I just really found myself there, and I said, no, I want to travel because I didn't get to study abroad when I was in college. So I decided to take a month and go to Europe.
Oh, there you go.
And I
Look
went
at that.
backpacking. So that's me leaving for my trip. That's all I took was a backpack and a little carry-on suitcase, and I went away for a month and went to like 16 cities, like 8 countries. It was the coolest experience and just continued my love. So then I come back and I start working at Deb's restaurant in Higginham, and Chris Morgan, who is our former public access coordinator, walks in the door one day. I haven't seen Chris since like high school. And he's like, hey, how are you? What are you doing now? And I was like, just this, terrified to go into the real world. And he goes, crazy thing, I'm leaving Valley Shore. I got another position. And he said, call Mr. Lewis. Tell him you're looking for something. And I called Mr. Lewis, and I remember I was standing in the gym locker room, and he said, the job is yours if you want it. I've been following you since college. He's still so impressed by the track gang, and he gave me the job. And that's how I ended up here. So I have different, I got my feet in here. I started March 2023, and then in October 2024, I went full time. And it's just been an amazing experience so far. So Emily moved up to Chris's position as public access coordinator, and then I fulfilled her position as the studio assistant and field producer. So my main role is to film segments. So I go out into the field like Emily did with the car show. That's more of my focus. And then just helping with daily tasks, like helping with your show or helping with the other shows, helping producers, helping volunteers. But my favorite thing is going into the field and doing segments. And that's just, I love that. I love being able to tell stories. That's why I went into journalism in the first place, was to give a voice to the voiceless. And that's how we ended up here.
Did you ever think about being in front of the camera or doing anything as a performer, or did you always see yourself behind the scenes?
Well, I want to be a reporter, and I never really cared whether that was in front of the camera or behind. I just want to tell stories. I don't want to be the main focus. I want the person who I'm interviewing to be the focus. And I want their story to be the focus, but I want to be the person to help tell it. So I didn't care whether I ended up in front of the camera, whether I was behind it. It would be really cool one day to, like ABC or NBC, when they sit down with the president and you see the reporter in the shot, but they're not the highlight. That's something I would love to do. Like I don't mind being on camera, but I'm not something that I'm chasing after.
Tell us about the station, Valley Shore Community Television Station. What is it?
So we are the public access station for the shoreline area. We cover 9 towns, and it is just extraordinary. It's hyper-local, and hyper-local needs attention, and that's what we give. And volunteers can come into the studio like yourself and put on a show. We meet people of all different sorts. We have volunteers behind the camera that don't want to be on camera. And it's just a really great experience for people to learn this amazing skill. Just be able to experience something different. It's so much fun being able to work in television production, journalism. It's just been remarkable.
What does public access mean?
Well, what it stands for is like PEG, which is Public Educational and Government Programming. So Channel 18 is our sister channel, which does all educational programming. So that's HKTV. They run that out of the high school. So we focus on the public and the governmental side. So we will do shows like this is open to the public. The governmental side would be, I do the town updates, and we film town meetings. So our job is to kind of be there to help the towns, showcase that, give the news of the towns, and the public side is you coming in. So we cover all different areas. So that's what public access, the PEG stands for. So these are the town updates.
Oh, look at that.
And then that's my pickleball story, which I actually got to play pickleball and learn it.
I saw you on TV.
That was fun. So something like that, I don't mind being on camera for that because that was fun. And you learn a new skill. And then the town updates is just really cool. I started that here when I first started, and I've gotten to bond with several selectmen, and we're hoping that the rest of the selectmen in the area will come on board. But it's a great opportunity, and it's been so well received. And then these are all the segments I've done so far since I started. And I've got more in the works. So I want to talk about, one of my favorite segments is probably the Water Lantern celebration. And I want to talk about this one because it's just one of those, it's like the tracking in a sense, because I was interviewing a girl who is autistic, because this is part of A Little Compassion, which helps the neurodiverse community by giving them jobs, giving them an outlet, giving them an opportunity to be with other people who are just like them and have gatherings. And they held a Water Lantern celebration, which allowed all people of all different, the neurodiverse, the community to come together. And I was interviewing this girl that is autistic with her mom. And at the end of the interview, she said to me, "Thank you for making me feel normal. When I told you I was autistic, you didn't make a face, you just kept going on with the interview. Thank you for not making me feel like I'm different." And that meant so much to me, because they're not different, they're just like us. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. It's when you make somebody just feel like she felt heard.
We are starting to run out of time, but I don't want to forget the website, VSCTV.com. What will the viewer find when they go there?
So we have a contact page, but more importantly, you can watch our live stream, and you can also watch video on demand, which has all of our programming. So my videos will be there, your show is there, other shows that we do, everything has its own little box that you can click on. And then the town updates are there. Basically anything that we produce is then sent there for you to watch later. And then there's obviously the live programming. You can contact us. There's information about what public access is, and that's about it.
Okay, we are close to running out of time, but do you recommend to the viewer that schooling is important to do what you do?
I think for the skills, yes. I don't want to say I learned anything super different than what I learned at HK, but that's because I came from a super developed program. A lot of other people I went to college with learned a lot, but I'll tell you why college I think is important, is because if you're in this field, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And Hofstra has a lot of connections, and going to any school has a lot of connections, and network is key. So I would say you don't necessarily need to go to a fancy schmancy program like Hofstra, but just remember to network. That's key.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here today. It's been a pleasure, and you are amazing.
Oh, thank you. It does go by fast. When people say that, I'm like, what do they mean? It feels like 30 minutes, and then I'm sitting here, and I'm like, la la.
How was it to be in front of the camera?
It's awesome. Let's do it again.
Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next time.